Welcome to Park Circle. Grab a Bible, read through Matthew 8, verses 5 through 13. Let's play around together. In Matthew 8, Jesus has just finished the Sermon on the Mount, and he's healed a leper and sent him to the priests to provide a sign and a proof to them. We now see that Jesus has entered Capernaum, and there he's approached by another outsider to the culture, not through disease, but by birth and by loyalty. This is a centurion, a leader of the Roman guard, asking for healing for a servant. His servant is paralyzed and suffering, and Jesus offers to come and to heal him. The centurion responds through a nearly miraculous understanding of how authority works. I mean, I guess it's not miraculous since he's, Roman and this is very normal, but in our culture where we are deeply confused about authority, the centurion has a lot to teach us. First, the centurion displays a level of humility similar to that of the leper. He says, "Lord, I'm not worthy to have you come under my roof." The centurion is humble, even in his bold request. He just pushes forward. He doesn't bury the lead. He says, "Lord, if you say the word, my servant will be healed." That's better. The centurion then goes on to give a brief lesson in authority that we would all do well to hear. Now you're not going to staple up? The first thing he says is that he too is a man under authority with those in authority under him. He understands that authority is built on a chain of command. Oh, that was nose up. He also notes that where there's authority, when a command is given, it's obeyed. It's interesting to consider, too, that Jesus is himself under authority. His authority to act and function comes from the Father. Even Jesus is not self-authorizing. A beautiful lesson that the centurion teaches us is that to be under authority is to be able to exercise authority in a proper sphere. Jesus marvels at the centurion's faith for good reason. If we think about the implications of what he's saying, he says, "Jesus, you are under the authority of the Creator God, and you have authority over all creation. You can just make commands and they'll be followed." Jesus is, in fact, the incarnate Son. And as the incarnate Son, he submits his human will to the will of the Father. He does exercise authority as one under authority. That the centurion can see this is profound. Jesus says as much when he acknowledges that even in Israel, where people should be trained to know about who God is, faith like this just isn't seen. The centurion is believing something deeply true, but incredibly unique among the peoples. Just as Jesus did with the leper by sending him as a proof to the priest, Jesus also provides a warning to those who might assume their place in the kingdom. He says, "Many will come from the east and west, while the sons of the kingdom will be cast into outer darkness." All this message of inversion would have been deeply upsetting to the Jews, thinking that others would inherit the kingdom and they would be cast out. Jesus isn't doing anything that the Old Testament prophets haven't done. Jesus, well, I mean, he's healing people, but the prophets always declared grace to the nations and judgment to unfaithful Jews. Even though Israel had the covenant signs of circumcision and Sabbath, they had the law and the temple worship, the Lord confesses that he is interested in true faith, faith like that of the centurion servant, faith that sees rightly who God is, who Christ is, and comes with a humble heart, expecting God to do according to his goodwill and purpose. Jesus ends the passage by saying, "Go, let it be done for you as you believed." And Matthew tells us that the servant was healed at that very instant. Jesus, again, is just so beautiful in this passage. His willingness to heal the servant of a centurion who is outside the Jewish community, a Gentile working for the oppressing army, but who saw Jesus rightly and his relationship with creation. Your question should be, do we see Jesus rightly? If you're not a part of a church, I want to encourage you to go join a church. But join a church that knows who Jesus is, that knows who the triune God is, who knows that Jesus has authority to command obedience from his people. Find a church where they cherish and value the Lord and his word, where they long to grow in holiness together as a congregation, submitting to godly authorities, those who have God over them. If you'd like to learn more about biblical and good and wholesome authority, I can recommend Jonathan Leeman's book by the title Authority. It gives a great depiction of what godly and biblical authority does and doesn't look like. Anyway, back to the passage. Jesus has good and rightful authority. Suppose it's possible that you're watching and your problem's the other direction. You're in a church. You're confident that you found good teachers. You can check all the right boxes when it comes to theology. Well done. But even the demons believe that. Maybe for you and I, we need to hear the warning that for those who might be trusting in their birth or a righteousness built from their own works, we need to hear the warning that there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth in the outer darkness. We need to be watching both our life and our doctrine, looking for the holiness and righteousness of Christ to shape how we live, and not the other way around. All that said, I hope you can see that Christ is sovereign over all creation, whether he can lay human eyes on it or hands on it or not. He can heal with the word. He has the authority to do so. So let's rejoice in Christ today. Let's continue to meditate on his word. And I hope you'll join me next time.